Hey everyone, my name is El Mazaris, and I am a PhD student in a field called the history of the exact sciences and antiquity, which means that I get to look at things like astronomy and astrology, but also mathematics and optics in ancient cultures like Babylonian, Greek, Roman, even Sanskrit Indian cultures, the Chinese. It's a lot of fun, but there's not many of us out there. So I'm really excited to get to talk to you a bit about it today. I took kind of a circuitous path to get here, which is kind of the norm for people who end up in my field because it's the history of a scientific field. We get people who are at the intersection of a lot of what we think of as humanities fields like history or sociology or anthropology, but also in the scientific fields like engineering and mathematics. So when I went to college initially, I was studying classical languages. I was studying ancient Greek and Latin, which was a lot of fun for me, but I wasn't as interested in the mythological texts that I think bring a lot of people into the field. So I wasn't quite happy there. And when I graduated, I ended up going to a grad program in linguistics. I thought maybe I was just interested in these languages as constructs of themselves, right? So I started studying languages more abstractly with the linguistics department that I was with. And that sort of led me into working with how we as humans talk to computers, working on ways that computers could understand the language that we use. And through that, I ended up working with NASA over at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California, but also at Langley in Virginia, working on ways that we could allow humans to integrate better with autonomous systems. And that was a lot of fun too. And it sort of brought me back into what I was missing from my classics programs. And that was the study of science, right? And specifically with NASA, the study of the sky with outer space. And so after I spent some time there, I went back to school for a history of science degree. And history of science covers a very long period. Most people, when they talk about history of science, they mean something from like the 1700s on. But I still really liked my ancient classes. I still really liked studying Greek and Latin. So I wanted to go back even further. So now I am in Providence, Rhode Island at Brown University, and I get to study science not just in Greek and Latin, but also in languages that are a little more obscure, like Akkadian and Sumerian. I get to read cuneiform texts, which is really cool and a fun party trick. So often my daily work is getting to read texts themselves. So I get to take a tablet of cuneiform text and I get to try to understand what it means and what types of observations it's recorded about the sky. But then I get to use some modern tools, not just mathematical programs, but intricate ways of modeling the sky and what it has been in the past to try to figure out how accurate were these observations, what types of phenomena were ancient observers trying to record. And it means I get to play a lot, not only with how our understanding of celestial phenomena like eclipses and the movements of the planets has changed over time, but I also get to understand or try to understand what these ancient scientists were thinking when they were recording this. What types of phenomena did they think they were trying to record? What types of uses were they trying to put these records to? It's a lot of fun to try to think of what science might mean in different contexts and how it's changed over time and whether that should impact or can impact how we treat it today. So I think it's pretty cool. One of my favorite things about this job is that it's not very common, which means that I've always got stories to tell that people aren't familiar with. It also means that I can take this sort of obscure knowledge of the sky and help to sort of recontextualize some things that feel very familiar. So I used to work at the Adler Planetarium and Astronomical Museum in Chicago. And they had this giant metal ball that had holes poked into it to represent all the stars in the night sky. And you would take a little cart up inside the ball and you could see the light shining through all the star holes and you could identify constellations. It was a very cool experience. And people grew very familiar with some of the more recognizable constellations. something like the Orion or Scorpio. These were very familiar, but I could take those groups of stars that people thought looked familiar and I could give them Babylonian names and I could tell the Babylonian stories related to these stars. And it helps us think about something that's been above us for as long as humans have recorded anything, and think about it in a new way that we're just not used to. It's what I love the most, maybe. It's a pretty cool field, and it's not a field that I think many people think about. I think a lot of times people will say that if you study science, you have to be a STEM person. You have to stay only in the realms of science and technology and mathematics and engineering. But that's not true. You can love science and you can still look at some of the humanities aspects of it. You can still talk about its history, and it's just as interesting. And maybe even more so if you're me. So thanks for listening to me. I hope that you find what I do as interesting as I do. Um, and it's definitely a field that would welcome some more people in it. So if you're interested at all in thinking about not just what's up there in the sky and how we look at it today and how we interact with it today, but also how humans have interacted with it for millennia, then the history of the ancient sciences is the right field for you.